Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second small business webinar. It's a pleasure to welcome you all, and we are recording this webinar as we are with all of them, and present that archive on our websites. We do have some poll questions for those of you who've just joined. If you could fill out the poll in the screen there and started with the webinar. I do want to recognize our sponsors for today's webinar: the Small Business Development Centers, Montana Department of Commerce, and U.S. Small Business Administration, the Montana Economic Developers Association, and Montana State University Development Program. We have additional support from Great Falls Development. Our presenter today is Jason Nitsky, and Jason would like you to hold off on questions until the end. We do have a question pod that we'll have on our presentation screen, and questions in there, and just monitoring those. We'll also have a final evaluation at the end of the webinar, so ask it. If you have any tech support issues, if the audio needs to go up or down, please let us know. You can also type in the screen, or you can call me or email me. So with that, I am going to introduce our speaker today and pull up his presentation. Very happy to have Jason Nitsky from the Great Falls Small Business Development Center. He's the regional director, and he'll be talking to us today about getting your business online. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Paul. If everybody can hear me okay, I'm going to get going. If there are any audio issues, go ahead and type them in there. Paul will address them. If you have content questions, go ahead and type them into the pod questions, !, ask here, ! And I will stick on after the 11:30, and work through answering any questions that anybody may have through the top of the hour. I'm available obviously via email here, and phone. Email is ideal for me. So let's just talk a little bit about getting your business online. Really, the small business webinar series is best practices. We brought this together to help educate and inform, and kind of get people aware, and then to if you've got questions, we'll have you reach out to local resources, the SBDCs throughout the state, or folks like Paul at MSU Extension. This is a little bit about me. I've been running the Great Falls Area Small Business Development Center for 3 years now. I came from the state of Illinois. I was a working journalist throughout the country the majority of my career. I've owned 2 companies along the way and come from a family of entrepreneurs. I've got a few certifications that are relevant to economic development and business development. All of the SBDC advisors statewide are certified business advisors, and we all have standardized training. I was born and raised here in Montana, born and raised in Great Falls, went to with the journalism and political science bachelor's degree, and got my master's degree in communication. I know, poor me in Hawaii. For those of you who may not be aware of what the Small Business Development Centers are, we're a federally funded resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration. There are about 1,000 centers nationwide. There are 10 in Montana. If really regardless of where you are, you can find no or low cost training events like this and free counseling and advising to help start, grow, or expand. I wanted to talk about my host here in Great Falls, the Great Falls Development Authority. We're a public-private nonprofit, about 120 local investors, and we provide gap financing, including the statewide program, SBA 504, which is a fixed asset loan program. If you have questions about any of that kind of stuff, please send me a message, and we'll get those questions answered. We also provide technical assistance like the Small Business Development Center and our government contracting program. We spend the majority of our time working with entrepreneurs within this trade area, starting and expanding their endeavors. We do spend a good portion of our time, and we'll be spending more time moving forward through business attractions. This is what we're going to talk about today. These really are best practices and good rules of thumb to really apply. You know, business advisors by definition are generalists, and we hope to try to impose structure, ideas, and really these things have proven to be, in my time here, both as an advisor and then also as a business owner, things that work, and especially in the world today, the online footprint and the strategy related to that are critically important. Why? Well, as you can see, 97% of the consumers in the world are looking for goods and services online. 4 out of 5 use search engines. We're going to talk about search engines today to find you. Businesses that are online are expected to grow faster than those that are not, and those with complete listings online are twice as likely to be considered reputable. And without being able to meet somebody face to face and make those judgments, what you put out there is going to be completely irrelevant. The unfortunate thing is, according to Google, that more than half of businesses have not claimed their business listings. So let's talk about kind of optimizing that generalized online footprint. So we're going to talk about websites, search engines, your reputation, how you communicate both with words and without, and then how social media plays into all of that. So websites to me are your virtual location. If you're a business that has a physical location, I think of a website, not a social media platform, but a website as your virtual location. It's a place for people to go. It's a platform for you to communicate with them, whatever your products or services are, your ideas, your content, your messages. And then it's also a tool for selling. We've got an e-commerce guide there that Paul has posted that was written by our marketing specialist at the Department of Commerce. Feel free to download that. It's a good user's guide to help figuring out e-commerce. So let's talk about optimizing a website as your digital location. Of course, first question that I have to ask most people is, do you have one? Not everybody does. Obviously, is it functional? That's kind of arbitrary, so let's define that a little bit. Is it responsive design? The statistics clearly indicate that the vast majority of people are not sitting at computers searching for goods and services. They're using phones. So your site really does need to be mobilely optimized. The call to action is something that is largely omitted when I do marketing audits for people. You have to tell people what you want them to do. Is your website easily navigated? Can people organically find what they're trying to find related to your products and services? And really, this is a critically important thing. Does it collect information? Are there analytics on the back end that you can gather? And are you looking at them? If you're a business owner and you're not looking at your financial statements at least once a month, if not every day, like some of my clients, you're really missing opportunities. And that does apply to the analytics, who you're trying to serve or reach through your social media and website platforms. Something that has proven extremely important with folks online, my clients. Do you have testimonials? Are your clients communicating for you? Your website needs to have inbound and outbound links. There are reasons for that. So what are those inbound and outbound links? Well, it should list everywhere else you are online, obviously your other social media platforms, and then links to other relevant sites. I'm working with a company here in Great Falls called Anchor Fitness. They're personal training. They're a small firm. And they have their website linked to one of the health food stores here, 2J's Fresh Market. So that kind of natural interaction seems rather obvious, but you do need for search engine optimization inbound and outbound links. So again, to the question of, do you have one? If you don't have one, we need to determine what you need. Do you need just an informational website, or do you need it to really be functional and sell for you? of course, you have to ask the very important question: how much time will it take to manage a website? Do you have the skills to design it, to create the content, manage it? And of course, probably the most important thing is the time to do so. Small business owners, especially micro businesses, you're the cook and the bottle washer and the chief salesman and the payroll specialist, and in this case, potentially a marketing specialist. I always have people ask, really think about this: where is your time most profitable? If you can be out selling your product or service, or training your staff to be out selling your product or service, making $200 an hour, and it's going to cost you $100 a month to outsource your marketing efforts, that may be a worthwhile use of your time. Moving on to search engines and reputation management. This is how people find you. So just a couple of examples here, and again, I'm going to move quickly through some of these, and I'm not going to be completely comprehensive, but just give you some ideas of what's out there and what you should be trying to do. Obviously, Google's the primary place to go. Get your business online. You can go to GYBO and claim your business listing. Again, more than half of businesses that are online have not claimed their listings. You can just do a simple search on Bing or anybody, and you can see whether or not you have actually claimed your listing. You can search gybo.com to do the same thing. And it's a relatively simple process, and in Google's case, it's free. I've got Yahoo up here. You can do a free claim. They're going to try to sell you a little bit more, but you can do the free claim on Yahoo. And something to be aware of: if you are a home-based business, there are options to not list your address on that website. The point is to really get you on the map and get you found. So as you're going through some of those things, be very aware, if you don't want your website out there, or I'm sorry, your home address out there, to click the relevant box. If you need some help, of course, reach out to one of the Small Business Development Center advisors statewide, or email me and I'll try to help as well. So my host, GFDA, this is what our Google listing looks like. It's not complete. We don't have reviews, which I would argue we need to do a better job of. So hopefully do what I say, not what I do. Again, there are, in regards to kind of more effective time management uses, there are, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead too quickly. Reputation management. If you're trying to capture people, things like Yelp and TripAdvisor and others are ways for you to do that. I know there are people who are very frustrated with Yelp, but again, this is where people are talking about you. You can see there in the example that some people are not getting great listings, and I know from personal experience that some of these reviews may be just disgruntled people, but you do need to manage that reputation. A couple of points here: if you don't curate your brands, people are going to do it for you. Again, to the point, if you're not managing your online reputation, people are going to tell other people what you are. And probably the most important of the points here, and it applies to everything we're going to talk about throughout the rest of the half hour: every decision you make has a brand impact, and every brand decision you make has a financial impact. So hopefully you're doing things to drive business to the top line of your financial statement, gross revenues, and then if you're able to manage the business appropriately, that means hopefully more net profit and potentially more money in your pocket. This is what I had started talking about before: some paid tools to help manage all of the things across all platforms. And these are just a couple of that I've heard of, and I'm sure there are probably others out there. You can see the spot here. LocalWorks is about $30 a month. But if it's worth the time to manage all of these platforms, it may be worth the money as well. So again, some quick questions to ask yourself: can you afford to not manage your reputation? I would argue not managing your reputation is probably a bad idea. And again, where is your time most profitable? Selling or doing the stuff yourself? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not a tech person, so in my case, I do as much as I can possibly do, and then probably want to outsource some of that stuff. So let's talk about how people process information aesthetically. Some really important things to think about and be aware of. Again, best practices and rules of thumb. are you using logos and images that are of high quality? That is something that I actually see quite frequently that are really low res and poorly representing your brand. Do some of these images relate to your brand? I'm going to show you an example here momentarily. Probably the plan is just as important as anything else. Do you have a plan to create a steady flow of content? Because if your content on your social media platforms or on your website becomes stale, people aren't going to continue to come back. And then, of course, if you come to all of these things and you realize, oh my gosh, I just can't do all of this, well, and you need to probably start thinking about outsourcing to another small business to help you curate and manage content. So here's an example of a client that I'm working with. This is her active live website. I look at this and I see coffee shop. Well, she's an architect. And so one of the things that we've been doing over the summer is trying to create a better, more substantial and brand relevant website and aesthetic for her. Really great, really cool company, just really hip and just very modern and innovative. But her website was not working well for her and was not communicating her brand. Some data here on how people process information. This comes from a relatively old study, but it's completely relevant. The vast majority of people are going to process visual cues and audio cues before they process words. So you can say whatever you want, but if you misrepresent yourself visually and orally, you're probably not doing yourself any favors. So optimizing social media, I've got this called communicating with words. Obviously, you'd want to integrate video and audio and photographs. But again, have you claimed your pages? Have you updated your pages recently? Is your logo sized correctly? Are your posts relevant and kind of newsworthy? And really, are you on the right platform to reach your audience? Not everybody is going to find you on Facebook. Depending on your target audience. We'll talk about target audience here in a little bit. And really the way I look at social media, these are messaging tools, not destinations, but tools to reach your audience, operating where they are living their lives. People are on Facebook, people are on Instagram. You want to be there so you can catch them and join the conversation. But that's not your destination. Really, your website is your standard destination. Space, the reason for this in my mind is, space is limited on social media, but it's not really on website. And ideally, you're going to want to use your social media tools to drive traffic back to your website. That has proven to me over the years probably the best practice. You can use social media to build your brands and shape the way that people are thinking of you, talking about you. Really, this is the driving conversions element is return on investment stuff. And the analytics on the back end, I mentioned the company Anchor Fitness here in town. We were talking 2 days ago about their analytics, and they have realized that the vast majority of people who are looking for personal training are navigating through search engines to find them at a rate of 50%. So people are searching for things like using keywords like personal training Montana, personal training Great Falls, and they're finding them. So that's how people are coming to them, and they're actually converting to clients to the extent of close to 2,000% based on the dollar they're committing. So that stuff is really, really great information to have. It helps to justify why you are where you are. Obviously, you can use social media to drive conversations. One of the things I mention to people a lot is, are you establishing yourself as an expert in your industry? I would hope that people are going to come to you because you are the expert. You'd ideally like to be able to communicate in an intelligent way and represent yourself in a professional way to the extent that people will think of you, top of mind awareness, when they have a question or a concern, and they'll reach directly out to you. Here are obviously some of the platforms. And again, not every social media platform is going to be right based on industry sector. So to answer the question, which one should I go with? Well, pick one. Facebook is kind of the dominant social media platform in the world today, depending on your on your age bracket for a reason. It's where a lot of people are, unless you're looking for teenagers because they now consider Facebook for old people, I've been told. But pick one, just pick one and get started. In terms of an operational policy and internal policy, who should you allow to post on your accounts? Obviously, you need to have approval authority. I would be a little bit hesitant about granting some of that authority to an employee who you may or may not trust, or who may or may not be with your organization for an extended period of time. So I would be very conscious about that, and I would always, always, always maintain your passwords and login information. If somebody goes in and steals that from you, just think of all the awful things that they could say from the inside. Obviously, if you're going to be hiring a social media manager to do that for you, best practice is to ask for a proposal and get some of those tracking metrics before you hire them. So what kinds of things should you post? Well, a perfect post is going to look like those kind of four things there. It should be relevant and conversational. I'm trying to avoid direct sales, and you can use some of those tools there. What time of day is a question I get a lot. Obviously, that depends on your target market. When I'm putting together marketing for events like this, for example, I'm targeting business owners throughout the state, and I make some assumptions there. So I try to post my social media, my email marketing. I try to push that out when somebody's either just getting to work for the first time, maybe having a cup of coffee. So that's usually in the morning. With that said, the click-through rates are highest after lunchtime, and the most important thing to note is that you can find all of this in your Insights tabs wherever your metrics are, whether it be with Facebook or others, and that should include your website as well. You can see when the peak times are and use that as a tool. When you post something, make sure that it's worthy of the post. Don't waste people's time. I'm very conscious of my time and what I choose to share and not share. The pictures there are really important, and statistics would indicate that videos actually have higher click-through rates and more shares than pictures and or words. Let's talk about the strategy a little bit. This is usually the part where people's eyes glaze over. Let's talk about budgets. It's really important to start with something like this because it provides focus by determining why you're spending the money you're going to be spending. It helps to clarify what your goals are, and then really sets expectations for what you're trying to produce in results. Of course, starting with that then helps to provide some more specific direction in terms of where you're going to spend. I've got a handout here if you're interested about your marketing mix and kind of cross platforms, and where you should be trying to reach people and promote yourself. And then you also have to make very strategic decisions about whether or not you're trying to just generate and push out your brand for brand awareness purposes, top of mind awareness, or if you need the money that you're going to spend on promotions, websites, advertising, paid spots to actually generate clients. I get a lot of questions about, okay, well, how much should my budget be? Well, there's some industry data reports out there. If you want to find that, it's specialized by industry code. Anybody in the SBDC network can pull this information. Some bankers might be willing to pull RMA data for you. I have access to both of those. If you're interested in a data report, please just let me know. So, as we kind of close things out here, strategically, cost-effective advertising and promotional efforts do need to target very specifically who it is you're trying to reach. So just in terms of the definition, you can kind of see that definition there. And if you're going to do some research on it, obviously primary sources would be your employees, and your insights page on your website or social media. You can also do social media surveys. You can talk to people. You can ask them at the point of sale what kind of thing. Of course, it's completely arbitrary on what you're trying to gather. Secondary sources is where SBDC advisors can really become helpful you can go to places like the Census Business Builder. Montana Site Selector through the Governor's Office of Economic Development is a fantastic tool to pull some of these data reports. They can be localized to specific cities and counties throughout the area. I also have access to jobs data, occupation-specific data here at Great Falls Development Authority. So obviously, if you have any of these types of interests and you're trying to find some specific data on the secondary side of things, reach out to one of us and we can help. On the strategic messaging side of things, things to think about when you're pushing messages out there. You want to provide information. You want to try to interact with people, and most importantly, you want to have a call to action. You want to tell them what you want them to do, your customers or potential customers. And really, what I want people to think about is when you're creating messages, inspiring action is going to be connecting with people on an emotional level is going to inspire them a little bit more than simply telling them what you do and how you do it. So this is really a Simon Sinek. I'm completely stealing from him on this one. You want to connect with people on why you do what you do. And as Guy Kawasaki, a former executive with Macintosh division of Apple Computers, used to say, or does say, this is how you make meaning with people, and this is really how you connect with people. Obviously, a secondary message you're going to send in a promotional message, how you do what you do, and then what you do. If you're looking for an example, Blue Apron has some great stuff out there. I've got a link there for you if you're interested in seeing it. They're doing it very, very well, which is why I put it out there. There are a lot of local companies that are doing it well as well. I see a lot of really bad ones. So if you're looking for a good example, this is a good way to go. And I know we're getting to the top of the hour here, so I'll start to close out. Really, when it comes to identifying your goals, we're talking today about modern inbound lead generation. This really is a very cost-effective way to do it. I mentioned Anchor Fitness before, the local company here in Great Falls. The money that they're spending on promotional efforts are converting at almost 2,000% return on investment to customer conversions. Why is it important? Well, statistically speaking, half of all businesses that start around the country every year are going to fail within 5 years. So if you're not being innovative and being out there where people are in digital space, you will probably be one of the bad statistics at some point in time, or it will be one of the causes that may lead to declining revenues and profits. So that's it. If you do have questions, I'll stick on for a little while. Feel free to ask. Email is always a great way to connect with me. If you're outside of the Great Falls area market, I'll refer you to the advisor in your area. Again, we do have 10 centers around the state. And if you choose to go elsewhere in the country, there's always an SBDC there for you. Thanks for attending. Again, if you do have questions, go ahead and fire away.
Thanks, Jason. Encourage you all to type in your questions. You can also download those files by highlighting them that are just below there in the pod that says Small Business Files. Just takes a minute to download those files. Some questions coming up there, Jason? I'll turn it back.
So yeah, Ann, I'll ask you, Ann, the question that you have, do I have some basic tips for making your website mobile friendly? Yes, use your provider. Contact customer service. There are really good providers out there that will provide great customer service for you. Make sure that you have the option and the capability. There may be an additional fee for some of that stuff, but I would not even try to answer that question on the technical side, because the people at the company that are hosting your website are the specialists and the experts there. So I would reach out to customer support with whomever it is. So Teton County has a question: how do you determine who your target audience is when using these? Yeah, no, that's a really good question. It really kind of depends on the product or service, and you have to make some good rule of thumb assumptions and know who it is that's most likely to use your product or service. We can then create messages based on age demographic and gender, and specifically where they're located. There's data out there to find, how much money people are spending on certain types of things. So it really is an arbitrary thing, but it's your best knowledge and your best guess. You're not going to try to market to everybody, because that becomes extremely expensive. But ultimately, get a pretty decent idea of who your customer or potential customer is based on the product or service you're offering. That's a good question. Obviously, if any of these questions aren't getting deep enough answers for you, a phone call probably would be best. We have another question here. My comments on the current role of blogging to stimulate SEO and driving traffic to websites and sales. I think it's really important to use blogs as much as possible, whether it's a video blog or a written blog, of course, based on your time commitment and availability. Those are the types of things that you can then grab from your website and push out through social media with the ultimate goal of trying to establish yourself as an expert in your industry. If you put together, bad blogs that don't represent you very well, that's going to be a negative brand. It's going to have a negative brand impact. But really, the whole point with blogs is in my opinion, to try to establish yourself as an expert in the industry, and then creating content for you from your website to grab and push out through social media. I think it's a great way to do that. The important thing with regard to search engine optimization, that's a great way to sprinkle in all of those keywords that people may be out there using on Google to try to find your product or service. And if you have a lot of those words, as Google or any of the search engines scrape the websites out there, and the more of those keywords that you have within those blogs, you're more likely to be found, which increases your ranking on Google and other search engines. Good question. So just to advance a little bit, please do fill out our SurveyMonkey. We are federally funded here at the SBDCs. We are required to have these surveys as part of our training. So please do that for us. It shouldn't take you more than a few minutes. We do have some upcoming webinars. First Thursday of each month to end the year. We're planning our 2018 schedule starting in February. So please feel free to attend either of these. Julie Jackshaw in our Butte office is going to talk about company culture in November. And then Anya Peterson-Fry, who's in our Bozeman office, she's going to talk about creating stories to help with finding financial support, whether that be through investors or banks. We do have all of these webinars recorded on the msucommunitydevelopment.org page, and then on the sbdc.mc.gov classroom site. So if you missed it, if you missed the beginning, Paul, can you tell us when you'll have these things posted as recorded?
Sure. It usually takes about a day to render these, so by tomorrow we'll be posting today's webinar. We did already post last month's webinar. Should be on both websites.
We did credit card processing last month. It was really good. I wish I knew a little bit more about Google Analytics. There's data there. I don't generally get inside those things. I talk about the impacts with people as they understand their Google Analytics. If you know more, Paul, please go ahead.
I don't. Just scratch the surface, but I know that there's a lot of potential there to understand traffic and who's actually viewing pages. Jason, did you address the Teton County question?
How to determine who your target audience is? Yes, I did. Hopefully as clearly as possible. Really, the most important answer to most questions is it depends. But that's where one-on-one conversations, with your business advisors really can be helpful.
Great. Any other questions for Jason? Well, Jason, thanks so much for staying on the time, on our time limit of about half an hour. And want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please fill out that SurveyMonkey evaluation. This is really helpful for all of us to understand the work that we're doing here, and also for Jason for his reporting purposes as well. And Jason, any last words before we call it a day?
No, just thank you to MSU for hosting and really being kind of the initiator of these webinars. It's really a great opportunity for us to get our name out there and to provide some resources to people, really with frequently asked questions. We get these questions a lot, which is why we did the webinar on credit cards last month, this one this month, and then the two there on your screen. Without MSU hosting these and doing some of the groundwork with marketing, we wouldn't be able to bring these to you. Obviously, the SBA and the SBDCs statewide and the Department of Commerce and the Montana Economic Developers Association, and of course, I'd like to thank my host at GFDA.
Great. Well, with that, thanks very much. We hope to see you on November 2nd. Please check the websites for the archive link and spread the word. We'd love to have help with marketing these webinars for later on this fall and through next year. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.